Hello and welcome to Life Talk Burrito with your hosts, me, Michele Gunn, and Shreyas Koushik. And I just want to remind everybody to go ahead and drop your comments where you're at, where you're joining us from, and your questions for our guests. Shreyas, would you like to introduce our special guest today?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Life Talk Burrito. We have Kathleen, a mediation coach, joining us. Welcome, Kathleen.
Hello,
Go
guys.
ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Kathleen Kauth, and as Shreyas said, I'm a mediator and a conflict coach. And I'm here in Omaha, Nebraska, smack dab in the middle of the country. So good morning, Michele, and good evening, Shreyas. It is really nice to be here with you guys.
It's a pleasure to have you. And this episode will start on a slightly different note, and we'll talk about the usual questions a little while later. But the latest news in is that you're running for city council. How did that come up?
Well, our elections have been a little bit chaotic this year. And it was a matter of me deciding, okay, there's not much I can do on the federal level. I can do something locally. And right now in Omaha, all of our city council members are up for election. So I decided about a week and a half ago to run for city council. I actually texted a lot of my friends, and I was on, email and text with my friends saying, what do you think? What are your thoughts? And they're all like, yay, yeah, you should do it. You'd be great. So by 2:00, I decided to do it. This is on a Friday. And then I realized I had not yet told my husband. So I called him and said, hey, by the way, and he's like, I hate it when you start sentences out, by the way. Like, by the way, I'm running for city council. See you tonight at dinner. So it's been a very interesting, 11 days since I decided. There's a huge amount of paperwork and processes and just a lot to get done. I feel like I'm kind of drinking from a fire hose, but I'm meeting lots of great people, figuring things out, and it's a challenge. I've been told I'm more than 2 months behind on fundraising and getting my name out, so it's going to be a very interesting process. But I like challenges, so this is going to be exciting.
It is definitely exciting for us as well to see someone we know contesting the elections and in such a difficult time. I don't know what city council stands for or what they do, but just listening to you speak, I think it's a great way to give back to your community. And Michele, if you have something to add to that.
So let me explain that a little bit. So city council is, the president of the country kind of runs the country. Our Senate and our House of Representatives, they do federal things. We have each state has its own legislature, and they decide things for the state. At the city level, you have a mayor and a city council that make decisions for that particular city. So this is very local, it's very immediate, and it's very much involved with the people I see every day. And so it's something I can do actual concrete, have an effect on what's happening.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great to hear that you're taking this opportunity to jump in. Even if you're running behind, you can just get there right up there.
Hopefully, the underdog is always fun.
Yeah, you want to say your city and state again. So if anybody, tag people that that live there so they can vote for Kathleen.
That would be wonderful. Omaha, Nebraska. So that would be fantastic.
Awesome. That's great. So looking back over 2020, we had a lot of challenges, right? The pandemic came, a lot of businesses shut down, people lost jobs. What was the biggest challenge you faced in 2020?
Well, for me, so as a mediator and a conflict coach, a lot of what I do, I call it immersive coaching, where I go in and sit with the person who I'm coaching, because when you're dealing with conflict situations, you can sit with somebody at a coffee shop or in an office and have them tell you what's going on in conflict, but you're hearing their side. You're only hearing a very one-dimensional view of an actual conflict. It's hard to give someone appropriate feedback. So I like to sit with them and see the actual interactions and view how things work. So when the pandemic hit, nobody was going into offices. Here in Nebraska, we didn't have it quite as bad. We didn't shut down quite as hard. So I was still able to get to some but a lot of them were unable to meet one-on-one in person. So we moved to Zoom, and that was a learning curve for me because I am very much body language and tone of voice, and so I got very used to watching people carefully on the Zoom screen. So I had one client who, he would just kind of tuck in like this, and I was able to start calling him on it and getting him to realize, okay, you're doing something very specific with your body language, and that means this. You're uncomfortable with this conversation, so let's follow this. So it was me needing to adjust my skill set, but it's kind of fantastic because I've had clients in India now, and so it's you close one door, you open another, and look where we're able to go. I've met some amazing people like Shreyas and Michele and just people from all over the world, really, because we're all kind of locked in, so we're reaching out.
Yeah, I found similar to you that being forced to go virtual is really giving a lot more opportunities. Like you, I've also have clients worldwide now and get to meet all kinds of great people in all different facets that we wouldn't have normally met and interacted with and learned from, because there's so much to learn from so many people. What do you have to say about that, Shreyas?
Definitely, boundaries are no longer a pain to coaches in particular, because we three are in the coaching industry, so I don't find boundaries limiting my reach. And also the biggest challenge while shifting to Zoom is that you're a bit apprehensive if the audience you're speaking to are actually listening to what you say or busy answering their delayed emails or just doing whatever they so desire. But it just kind of out of practice or making your content more interesting. I think we have all passed that phase. And then came the issues with internet. So for some strange reason, I don't know, we would just have a bad connection. And especially with Michele doing the podcast, we would often find both our internet connections would go kaput at the same time, as if they had a mind of their own. So many strange things around Zoom and a lot of lessons learned. So moving on to the next question, what is the biggest lesson you learned going through these challenges and coming out successful?
Well, I think, and you kind of touched on it, is, we'd have internet connectivity issues. We see kids walking through, we've got dogs barking in the background, trains, we've got distractions, we've got things because we're in each other's homes now. Yeah. And so now I think it's more personal. I think I feel, closer to people because I'll wave to people's kids and be like, no, bring them on. Let's say hi. Because now I'm getting to meet people on an even deeper level. It's not just that very surface professional, LinkedIn kind of meeting. It's, okay, I'm actually in your home. And the tolerance and patience we've all had to learn for when there are internet snafus, yep, it's going to happen. If you have, 6 people in a house doing schoolwork and work, and everybody's using the internet at the same time, it's going to happen. If you have a kid strolling across the background or asking for help, we've all become a little bit more patient and a little bit more understanding with the fact that, okay, life is pretty messy, and that's okay.
Very true. But the other side that I kind of see is it's good to be very personal. It's good that people are embracing all these additions like your children, pets, but in some manner we are being exposed even more. So that kind of puts some sections of people a little bit in an uncomfortable position because online presence is not 100% safe all the time. So there are many issues surrounding it. So what's your take on that?
I think you do have to be careful with, I have pictures in my background, but you probably can't see them too much. I don't have a lot of information out about my kids. I do, if my junior in high school comes home, I will make him say hi to people, but I don't put information out about him. So you do have to be careful and cautious, making sure your internet is secure and making sure that you're not getting hacked. Paying attention to those details is very important. And I follow a couple of security guys, IT security guys, and they're always, posting out these great information. And I didn't even think about having my cameras covered when I'm not using them. That is a great hint. So you should always do that. So making sure that you're paying attention to some of those security issues, you have that responsibility. So that's just it. Our responsibilities have shifted. As if you're going into an office building, you have the responsibility to maintain your safety by knowing your surroundings, knowing where, what the protocol are in your office building. We've just moved that to our homes.
Right.
Yeah. And I also want to add to that when we're talking about safety and security. I think it's really good points that you gave, Kathleen, about the kind of information that you're putting out there. Since everything is so social and public, a lot of times people don't think about the little bits and pieces that they give can be put together and people can find you easily nowadays. But the other side of that also is if we don't know who we're talking to, I mean, they have shows, catfishing and right, all this other stuff. I mean, you can see the posts on LinkedIn and everywhere about these people who are running scams. They're not who they say they are. They're after your money or who knows what else, that we really have to be careful and look for the clues.
And technology has made that faster and easier for them. So we have to keep up with it. But these are the same people who have been scamming people forever. The snake oil salesmen. They're the people who go door to door. Right. This has always happened. There's always been a component of humanity that wants to take the easy way out and that wants to take from people without giving, and do it in a harmful way. And so there will always be that. We can't get rid of it. We can only do everything we can to protect ourselves and understand the danger. So that's why it's so important to talk to those specialists, to understand what the issues are. I actually have a son who's a computer engineer. And so he's really good at helping us make sure what we're doing is safe and secure. So
I do want to address one of the comments that we have from Irfan. I don't know if I said that right, but he was dealing with challenges, launching a startup, and I guess there was an internet ban, and then COVID happened, and he came up with an app, and he's saying he's depressed. If ever you're depressed, you need to seek professional help. That's not something that just anyone can help you with. If you're really depressed, don't wait and seek professional help.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Right. No, right away. Absolutely. And Batul, thank you. You're enjoying the talk. So nice.
Yeah.
So when you deal with negotiation and mediation, and I know for sure your niche is elder care mediation, so what kind of challenges do you see in your clients?
So I'll explain a little bit. So the mediation and the conflict coaching that I do primarily is organizational. So I work with businesses, untangling dysfunctional teams, working with people to resolve their conflicts so that their work can actually get done. I work with CEO level people to help them understand how they deal with conflict and understand that it trickles down. So getting them to deal with conflict appropriately and effectively is very important because that will roll down through the organization. If they don't deal with conflict well, there's not much that people underneath them can do to make it roll up. So that's the organizational component. My niche is elder care mediation, and that's kind of my part that I love to do. So I work with older adults and their families as they have to make very, very difficult decisions, usually about healthcare. Dementia plays a part. As older adults start to fade, adult children can sometimes turn into their worst 12-year-old selves, and the fights they had when they were kids come popping up because people are never, ever ready to let their parents go. And when they see their parents failing, it triggers a lot of emotions in them. And so I help families work through those dynamics so that they can make the best decisions for the end of life issues that are going to come up.
So how has what you do impacted the older population, and how has the pandemic really helped you tackle these issues? Because elder care mediation as we all know, is quite important, and pandemic is not going to make it any easier. So, what is the impact, and how are you dealing with it?
Well, it's actually a very tough sell, mostly because people who are older adults, that's a generation that does not talk about their problems. They don't bring in people from the outside. I mean, it's family. That's business. A lot of them would prefer it just go away. So a lot of times it's the adult children or one of the adult children who will reach out to me. And so doing a lot of education about the fact that there is help for people who are in those situations is my primary goal. So I speak to retirement communities and nursing homes and people who are dealing with older adults in some way, whether it's elder care, lawyers who are setting up wills and trusts, just letting them know that those services are available when they see, social workers see families in distress all the time. And so being able to help those people is really, really important. So a lot of what I do is education based. The pandemic has certainly made getting into places more difficult. So I'm actually going to be teaching workshops through our local community college and reaching people that way. So again, doors closed, you find a way, you find something else. It's like water. Water will fill in anywhere there's a crack. It's just going to go wherever it can find a way, and that's what we have to do.
What would you say is the biggest piece of advice that you could give someone who has elderly parents before they might think they need a mediator?
Talk now. Before you should have a plan in place, you yourself, at the age, whatever you are, 20, 30, whenever you decide you're an adult, you need to make a plan, the what if something bad happened plan. And when you're younger, it's hypothetical. So here's the funny story. And this is really kind of why I got into this. My parents, we had some very difficult deaths in our family, a young child and then an older adult who had a medical malpractice death. And so my family had to deal with some things that they weren't really prepared for. Now, my parents are both half Irish and half German. And my father favors the Irish side. So he says, if I die, he truly is like, my mother favors the German side, and she got extraordinarily organized and started making lists and started making plans, very, very detailed plans about when she and my father were to die, what was going to happen. And not just with a funeral. She started with a funeral and kind of worked her way back to, life care and where they wanted to live and things like that. But the funeral was her main concern. So we have detailed lists. We know exactly what we're supposed to do. There are 5 children, and it's been incredibly helpful for us all to understand what our roles are. My mother bought coffins on eBay. They're in the basement. We have practiced the home funeral that they want to have. And by practice, I mean my dad is laying on a bier and we were, carrying him around the dining room. But because we were doing this 15 years ago, before their health was threatened, we were all able to view it as, okay, this is mom's being a little extreme. We're going to go along with it. But we all understood these are their intentions. This is what they want from us. And this is how they want us to take care of them. And so now as they are older, and my father has testicular cancer and it is terminal, we're facing those things in a much different way, but we all still know our roles. We know who is the executor of the estate, who is the person who's in charge of the medical power of attorney if they cannot make those decisions themselves. We are prepared. It's still incredibly difficult, but we don't have that trauma of trying to figure those things out in the midst of this very, very difficult time. So it is a blessing for people to talk about what they want, to make some plans, even if you just have 5 things written down saying, here is what I would like. If you don't ever want to live in a nursing home, make that very clear and start making plans so that you won't have to. Figure out what it is you want. And these are topics that nobody wants to talk about because it's scary and it's upsetting to think about these things. But guess what? especially this year, we have figured out life can smack you upside the head and we are not in control like we think we are. And the best way to manage that fear and that confusion is to exert a little bit of control where we actually can. We can do very tangible things, very tactile things to make those issues easier to deal with. So there you go. There's my rant.
That's a
From
lot of
what
good.
I hear you say, yeah, understanding and having a better clarity around what the person wants and respecting their wishes. I think that is what will help us manage the situation
Yes.
in an orderly way, and the outcome will be in the best interest of everyone concerned. And absolutely to talk it out and just have that intention to really respect and move forward with what they want or how they want to live.
Yes.
I think that is a great point that you said. So I just want to now break here and ask you, as Kathleen as a person, how has Kathleen as a coach impacted the way you live your life? Has there been any difference, or do you see?
Say that again.
both?
How does my coaching impact the way I live my life? Kind of.
Yeah. So how has Kathleen as a coach and Kathleen as a person, are there any differences?
Kathleen as a coach and Kathleen as a person are not terribly different. I always tell, and I was telling Michele this beforehand, if you ask my opinion, I will give it. Please be aware that if you ask me a question, make sure you want to know the answer, because I'm going to answer it. I have strong opinions and I am not shy about sharing them. I generally don't offer things up. I prefer to listen to people and hear how they feel about things. But if you ask my opinion, you're going to be good. But so as a coach, so it's really fun because being a mediator, and everybody thinks, well, you never fight, you never, you must always be like the kumbaya. So I'm like, not so much. So a mediator's job is to be the objective third party who's not involved. And that's why I love what I do, because I can be at 30,000 feet and see what's going on and kind of see the map of how everything is working in a relationship and understand how people can help work their way out of it. When you're in the middle of a conflict, it's much harder to do that. So I even need conflict coaches, and I certainly cannot do conflict coaching with my siblings because they get, stop pulling your, stop your mediation stuff. I can still beat you up. So, that's, again, we have 5 kids in our family, and all of us are opinionated. And so it's very interesting being, having the skill set and knowing that, okay, I can use it a little bit, but I can't really use it to dig myself out of actual conflicts. I can monitor it, and I can, I don't want to say avoid it, but I can manage it. But if I am very, very passionate about something, stand back. So it's one of those things. So if we're in a conflict, I tend to get pretty feisty.
Yeah, it's hard to look at things in a calm manner when your emotions are all intertwined in it. Yeah.
And that's actually the biggest job of a mediator, is to help reframe what people are saying, because when you're yelling, when you're angry, when you're upset, you say things in a tone, and actually the way you say something and the volume with which you say it causes the other person to shut down. I call it shields up. When someone yells, your shields go up, you go in protective mode. And that's for anybody, anywhere. So, if I'm in that kind of a conflict, and again, it's usually with a sibling, then those shields go up. We revert to that same kind of behavior that we used to. So learning how to take the volume down, take the tone down, those are all skills that you can actually use, and you don't need a mediator for. But really working through actual issues, it is always a good idea to have an objective person, not your best friend, not your sibling's best friend, but someone who is not involved whatsoever. Because if you're not involved, I always tell people when we do mediations, the first thing you're going to agree on is most likely that you hate mediation or you hate the mediator. One of those two things. And that's okay, because now you've agreed upon something. So having that objective person to be there to kind of suck away the emotion and take down the tone is really, really important.
Yeah. So anything you'd like to add to that, Michele?
No, I don't think so. I agree. I know I see that a lot in workplace scenarios where two employees are really kind of emotional at each other and can't think. And really, you bring in a common enemy and they really start banding together.
And what it does, and it's not even that it's an enemy, but it shifts the focus just enough. And when you can reframe or shift your focus just enough to allow for a little bit different viewpoint, people realize, wait, that because people get so locked in and so entrenched in a specific viewpoint, it's very difficult to see out of it. And once they can see a little bit, then it's now open to them that, okay, it shifted a little bit. Maybe there's more. Maybe I can shift even more and see a little bit more of a different viewpoint. So that's, especially, in organizations. I worked with one company, and it was a very dysfunctional team. Half the people were getting ready to resign. The other half, the director was getting ready to fire. I mean, it was a team that had been dysfunctional for a long time. When I talked with the director, she said, there's one person who they consider the pot stirrer, and this person had been passed around it was a healthcare setting, passed around this hospital, just moved to different departments because she was such a troublemaker, but they never fired her. They just kept moving her. So they passed the problem along without actually finding out what the problem was. So we did a team facilitation, and she brought up that there's a toxic work environment. I'm like, okay, time out. Words have meaning. You have to know that toxic work environment is a very specific thing in the human resources field. So we need to figure out, is this really a toxic work environment? And she was telling me about this manager who had verbally and emotionally abused her, and it was horrible. I'm like, this is horrible. I said, let's talk about what's happening, and I validated what she was saying. She was so angry about the situation, about the way she had been treated. And I said, is this person still here? Are you still with it? He had actually not been with the company for 10 years. He had been fired because of the way he was treating her, not just her, but other people. But because in America, the business culture is people get the chance to resign. And so the company's like, congratulations to whoever on his new opportunity with, this other company. We'll miss him. He's a great guy, all this to make it go away nicely. But to her, the wounded party, she just felt bitter and betrayed that he was never, ever held accountable, because she was never told that her complaints led to the investigation that led to him getting dismissed. So she was angry and acting out in all those different ways. It basically cries for help for 10 years. And so, I asked her, is that situation still in effect today? And it stopped her cold. She had been living in the past for 10 years, and it had been negatively affecting her for 10 years. Her health, her mental well-being, the mental well-being of everyone she worked with, her professional reputation. And it stunned her. And so she kind of thought about it. And we kept processing through it. And the team worked with her and told her how they felt about the way she was treating them. And she realized she was passing on the horrible behavior. So it was an amazing session. And they worked it out. We came up with strategies and plans for them. Okay, how do you deal with things? How we called it, this is your little Las Vegas. So if you need to have this conversation, you say, we're going back to Vegas. And we go back to the strategies that you learned and go back to what we decided in those meetings, in that facilitation, so that they could understand, all right, we're having a conflict now. We're going back to Vegas. We're going to refocus and use those skills and strategies. And they've been doing amazing. The whole team did a 180. The people who were resigning were so mad because they'd already accepted other jobs, so they left. But they heard how great the team turned out. And now they're one of the strongest teams in that hospital. So it's when you hold on to that kind of pain, it affects everything negatively.
Yeah.
Right. So Great points there, and I really agree about talking it out. So I'll just give you a breather to just collect your thoughts after giving so much value and put the spotlight on you, Michelle. So considering your expertise into Clifton strengths, is there any way by understanding what strengths you possess to understand if someone is a better negotiator or not?
Well, actually, the Clifton strengths don't tell you what you can do, it's how you can do it. So you would be aiming, if that's something you wanted to do, you would look at your particular strengths and aim them to what kind of outcome you want. So they don't really select you for that role, but you need to look at what your strengths are to determine how to use it to get the results you want in that role.
Makes sense. So coming back to you, Kathleen, you've had some beautiful practices. You have undergone different training programs. You have offered different training programs. So, if at all, what is one thing that you'd like to change going forward in 2021?
For me personally or professionally?
You can answer both.
So I don't know if it's changed, but continue doing. So I've been working very hard at making the most of LinkedIn and using it as a connection. So last year, actually before the pandemic. So in September of 2019, I decided, okay, I'm going to write an article every week and put it on my blog. So that's been my every Sunday I sit down and I write an article and it gets posted on Monday. And I've had that as a very staple of the last year and a half. And that has been fantastic because once you start writing and you get into the practice of it, now I have notepads everywhere, in my cars. I'm thinking about, conflict, or as I deal with, clients, I'm like, okay, this is going to make a great topic for, Sunday's article. So I've been doing that. I'm putting those articles together in a book. So I'm hoping to publish them as a series of essays on how to deal with conflict situations. I'm going to call it tidbits and tools for conflict resolution. So doing more and making sure that I don't necessarily like networking. It's never, the old way of networking where you go to a meeting and everybody's standing there and everybody's trying to impress everybody else. And I have so enjoyed the quad meets and the online networking that we've done and the whole offering to other people, what can I do for you first? Here are my skills. What can I help you with? And offering that out because I think it sends so much good stuff back to you and it makes you feel good. So I plan on continuing with that. And just continuing to build my business and build, right now, I'll be building city council, campaign organization, and I'm working really, really hard at that. So I'll probably take it down a little bit on LinkedIn and with my private clients, but building new business because I love what I do. I love helping people. I love helping organizations. I love it when the light bulb clicks over someone's head and they realize, oh my gosh, I'm in more control than I think, and I can fix this, and this is what's wrong.
Absolutely. So, to our audience, if you're listening in from Omaha, Nebraska, you have a great candidate for you to elect for your city council. And so coming to our last, but not the least question, what is Kathleen's legacy going forward?
My legacy going forward, well, I have 3 beautiful, amazing sons. So that is the best legacy I could ever hope to leave. That's one that's the most important to me. Professionally, if I have helped people and made their lives better, that's all I can ask for.
Absolutely. Anything you'd like to ask our guest, Michelle? We don't see any more questions in the chat, so I'll leave it to you.
Well, I first of all want to thank Kathleen. You gave us so much advice, so much knowledge you shared, so much great.
Ask me, I'm going to say.
That's good. But, and I agree with you. Your kids are a very important legacy to leave behind, especially, I think, in today's society where a lot of times kids are an afterthought. They're not the most important thing in a parent's life. So I love to hear you say that your sons are your legacy. Yeah, I feel the same way about my children and, their offspring. Of course, hopefully the values are shared down every generation and we can make the world a better place. But I wish you a lot of luck in your campaign. I hope it goes well. And I really enjoyed hearing you talk about on Quad Meets and the networking that we give first to see what we can give to people. I think that this pandemic has really helped people change their perspective in that manner a little bit more, because it's not as much about what I get, but more what I can give. And we are rewarded for that, but to not do it for that reason.
Yeah, I don't think people understand how, we've always taught our kids, when you do a good deed, that is the reward. The gift of having a good deed that you can do, that's your reward. So if the opportunity is presented to you to do something good for other people, you must never take a reward, a cash reward or anything for it, because the good that you're doing, you hold that in your heart, and you should not commercialize that. So that's doing good for other people is so good for yourself.
Absolutely. And pay it forward.
Yeah, exactly.
So Kathleen, before we end, I don't want you to be robbed of the opportunity to put us both on the hot seat. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask.
Wait a minute, you didn't ask me if that was okay.
Well, we're just constantly upgrading the show. Just
so one of the things that I love, though, is I want to know how the two of you connected. Because I know I met Shreyas on Quad Meets a long time ago, like when it very first started. And I met Michele through Shreyas. So, but how did you two connect in this big, wide world? If you think about it, there are how many billions of people? And how amazing is it that the two of you came together to create this awesome show? I love the randomness of all of this.
I'm quite stoked, actually, because the way we connected was totally random. We never knew any common connections. I was totally new on the platform. Then all of a sudden, I think I saw one of her posts where she started sharing about Clifton strengths. And that piqued my interest, and I wanted to know more. So I hired her as my Clifton strengths coach. So that is how the relationship started. So I was her coachee. And then we came to know that we both have a mutual interest for coaching. So we did a program together called the Insight for Executive Coaching. So that is how it started. And all of a sudden in September, we decided to just give it all in and give it back to help people. So we started our podcast, Get Set to Thrive. That was our very first collaboration. Until then, we were kind of on and off. We would engage on each other's posts, but we really did not think that we had it in us to take it forward. But all good needs a start, and we just gave it a go. It became popular in about 3 months. So we started season 2. And I'm really honored to have you as a guest as well. In a couple of weeks, we will be talking exclusively about negotiation and elder care mediation with some great tips coming your way. So stay tuned for Get Set to Thrive podcast. And then we just decided we'll make best use of this platform, LinkedIn Live, to the videos, because it just satisfies all the condition, and I get a free YouTube video for my channel. So 2-in-1 for me, but in the end, it's just our wish that we wanted to add more value to people and help them just make positive sense of the situation, and that they're not alone in going through the challenges. Everyone we meet, they have their own challenges, they have their own problems, own issues, but it's all about the mindset and the way they show. And that just gave rise to Life Talk Burrito. And we didn't want to limit it to exclusively coaches, because there are lots of people out there who just need a platform to share their voice, share their inspiration, share their motivating stories. And here we are. It's been 9 months, actually.
Oh, yeah.
9
And I want to,
years.
Yeah, and I want to add that Shreyas is a perfect collaborator partner for me because he really has the talents that I lack and picks up a lot of slack. So, yeah, it's definitely been a win-win, not anything I would have ever expected, nor would I have thought of or even probably dreamed of. A lot of the things that we do, Shreyas is the initial inspiration for it. So he is, I'm going to say, the young creator.
Well, and I want to point something out that you took a risk by reaching out, and that's huge because you could always get rejected. And I tell people all the time, I try lots of stuff. 9 times out of 10, it fails spectacularly. But that one time it works. You get something beautiful. And so I think that's what you guys have really done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
To just put that into perspective, So just to put what you said in perspective, when I connected with Michele, she had about 30K plus followers and I had just 10. So there is no way that I could have ever known that she would accept and become my coach. Because the first time we connected, we never thought we'd take the relationship forward and me hiring her as a coach. It was just a random invite and I didn't even personalize it. I just shot her an invite. That is it. But I'm just grateful that Michele accepted it then, and 9 months later, we are here seeing the results.
That was fantastic.
So, it's been a surreal journey for sure.
Yeah. So everybody who's watching needs to know that you need to take those risks. You need to make the approach.
Thank you very much for... Yes. So thank you very much for taking your time out of your busy schedule and giving us an opportunity to interview live. We'll be sharing the links to Kathleen's blogs in the comments. And also we'll share the link to our podcast. So please do subscribe and send a request to Kathleen if you need any negotiation coaching, or if you have someone who knows they need a look at mediation, she'll be absolutely welcoming your request and you can take it forward. So
absolutely.
Thank you. And until next week, safe. And we will be back with another amazing guest next week.
Thanks so much, you guys.
Thank you.